You know, I probably shouldn't go around telling people to just get power level in a leveling guide of all things. But you have to admit, this kind of XP is pretty stupid. Well, not everyone can afford boosting services. Especially at this level, I imagine a good seller is going to ask for a lot. Also, if you're watching this, I assume it's because you want to play the game, and not pay someone else to play for you. So, where did we leave off last time? Oh yeah, we got out of the desert. Or maybe you're still in there, in which case you should really hit at least 106 before proceeding. Coincidentally, also a great time to buy a boost, by the way, if you didn't save any quests. Anyway, we start at minimits at 106 at the absolute earliest, though I recommend 107. And you should get comfortable here because you'll be here for a whopping 13-ish levels. Personally, I recommend you just stay at the lower spawn of the normals as much as possible, but it's a pretty dangerous spawn for your RM, so if you're struggling with your RM dying a lot, stick to the smalls. Captains, I'm not a huge fan of because of the way you clear the spawn can result in a long run back to the main spawn. Not to mention it's easy to pack a corner with respawns that make it extremely dangerous for you to approach, because you might get jumped by like 5 aggros. You can move to Dark Yeti around 118. Dark Yetis have a pretty wide respawn area, ranging from the bridge to the hill leading up to the Mutant Yeti. Some will argue there's too much walking here and you'd stay at Medimits longer, which can be true provided your Medimit spawn isn't being crashed by AoE players. Your call, but generally as a 1v1, I would say the odds of someone taking over your Medimit spawn is a matter of when, not if. Especially on FWC. Dark Yetis on the other hand, you'll rarely see anyone, and there's plenty of space to avoid people even if you do. Not a very long stay here either way. Move on to Olgu by 122, mostly because there's a cliff at the north side of the spawn where mutant yetis fall down and get mixed up with the dark yetis. You probably heard people advise you to skip yetis and come here ASAP. Personally, I think that advice was from way back before the Azria spawn update that happened pre-FWC1, where you could stack Augur respawns super densely. Nowadays, they don't really feel any more dense than Yetis in my opinion. Anyway, AoE players really like the mutants by this bridge here, so if you want to avoid them, just stick with the blue Augus. Mutants are the first mobs to drop 135 set pieces. If it's early enough in FWC, that's something to consider when picking your spot. Outside of that narrow window, I wouldn't think too much about what set pieces you're getting. Oh, and don't try to level at Ardents. There's no good spawn of them. Once you're 125, 126-ish, move to Ghost Princes, or Kings. Ghosts basically have 3 spawns. You have the Kings in this big circular area, the Princes at this very flat lower platform that's extremely popular with AoE players, and this upper platform which I think is just as good, but no one ever seems to be at for some reason. The Violet can spawn in the middle of any of these 3 spawns, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. The sheet says you should be at Emperors at 131, but personally, I'm not a fan of them and think you should just go to Mammoths at that level. Mammoths only exist in 2 extremes. You have the upper spawn by the lake, which could be argued as too dense and dangerous, and you have the lower spawn which feels too sparse. Depending on how much your RM dies on the upper spawn, the lower spawn could be better. That's for you to decide, but also you can generally expect there to be an AoE player in the upper spawn. This is the last Azria mob you'll be at, as normal Aatrox have a huge spike in the 1v1 EXP buff, but also a similarly big damage spike, so don't go there until you have your 135 set. You can go before 135 if you reduce the set. I need to emphasize this here. Do not fight the smalls. Do not fight the smalls. Do not fight the smalls. They are 140 and therefore their 1v1 bonus is still only 35%. Normal and Captain Aatrox have a bonus of 90%, though the Captain Small is kinda so you'll probably be at normals anyway. If you don't like all these trees and dangerous respawns, You can move to tigers early and try to get that one spawn near the creepers that doesn't have any aggressive mobs, but you could definitely expect there to be an AoE there at all times. You'll be at tigers till 145 when you finally outlevel them. And I see you there, thinking about envy leveling, and we'll get to it, just not right now. Who has a 141 RM willing to Holy Cross for them right at 141 anyway? Putting that aside, normal Merrills are kind of fun to be at because they're so close to town. Don't try to target smalls. Even I don't really know a good spawn of them, and you'll always just gravitate toward the normals anyway. Captains are beyond the mountain, though weirdly enough, in my experience, they're like noticeably worse than regular Merrills, even though the spawn looks okay. Kingsters and Creepers are basically the same mobs with different elements. If you're still farming red meteor, I definitely recommend Kingsters so you don't have to change weapon element. More generally, I think the Creeper spawn is worse than Kingsters, but I do understand not everyone's a fan of narrow corridors or the camera flipping between over and underwater, so just go to whichever one you prefer. Level 149 is kind of a weird spot. On paper, it's the first level where small hunters in Kylan take over as the most efficient mob, which makes sense since hunters are like a permanent 5 times XP event compared to Coral. Difficulty, of course, is they hit super hard. Harder than even envy mobs until about 152 to be specific. And they don't have a spawn that isn't dense, so surviving them will pose an interesting challenge when you arrive. The XP is absolutely amazing if you can survive it, of course, but failing that, don't be afraid to stay at Small Naga. Dorians are probably never on the table though. You're likely better off making yourself a 16% attack PvE set and using that at Hunters than going to Dorians. That might even be the play at 150 rather than staying at Nagas if you're down for untested tech. I could see it working. All that we discussed just now is of course assuming at no point you were able to go level in MV depths, which we can finally address now that we're done with the outside route. First, let's take a look at the NV mobs by the numbers. We look at an overgrown shark here and compare it to a Captain Tiger, it looks really bad. Oh, but you'd have damage and XP curses, so let's put those in. Increasing damage is the same as reducing max HP, so that's how I'll show it here. And it's still not looking good for the shark. Oh, Holy Cross and Moonbeam. That's what I'm missing. Holy Cross doubles your hits, so again, going to reduce HP. I'm gonna assume your RM has 200% casting speed. And there you go. Now that being said, even at max casting speed, you're not gonna be able to Holy Cross every single auto attack, especially if you have to heal, so in practice, the lead NV mobs have over outside mobs is a little bit less than what's shown here. But if you don't have a ringmaster who will Holy Cross for you, whether that's just you dual climbing or another person, you're better off leveling outside. Here's the XP you can expect to get if you level in Envy. It goes up to 165 because I made it before Kylan released, but obviously with Hunters now being a thing, you shouldn't be here past like 151. Fun bit of trivia by the way, at that level, the Hunters will do just as much damage to you as the Envy mobs because of the attack buff they have from being 11 levels higher than you. And if you'll notice on this chart, your XP per clear goes down at a constant rate. So make sure you do your quests as soon as you unlock them because those things only become worse with every level you go up by. So, as always, here's all the chain quests and their unlock levels. So I'll go a little further to include the 155 and 160 quest chains since they aren't in the Kylun leveling guide. Kylun has one quest chain and like all of those quests give 5%, so no one really cares about them anyway. Volcane and the 130 Azria quests, and like every Coral quests, are all pretty tough for their level because of the giants involved. If you have a battle pass for a heavy style build, that'll make things easier, but ideally you have friends who can help you out. The Sea King Returns is probably cooked at its unlock level if you try to solo it. Though if you're like me, you always delay quests until your RM unlocks them too, So you save time by not doing them twice and have an easier time of actually doing them. So, just an idea. For the 155 questline starting with Venomous Vendetta, there are exactly the number of mobs you need for each step of the quest. If you bring friends to help, make sure only the characters with the quests are doing damage on the AoEs. If you miss a single snake or whatever, you'll have to wait until the dungeon cooldown ends to the next step of the chain. Also, for anyone interested, this is the level range where you can start doing master quests, starting with 60 to 70 at level 120. However, I don't recommend doing master quests until you have your 180 gear, because there's no benefit to doing it early. I'm sure some of you have played the original Flyff back in the day, so for those people, I'm happy to tell you master leveling isn't required to level past 120. That being said, master levels no longer give additional stats or skills. The only tangible benefit is permanently unlocking an additional stat page when you reach 125 hero. And I guess a skill page at 180 hero, but that's considerably more effort. So if I were you, I wouldn't do master leveling without a concrete plan for the second stat page at least. It's a lot of time and effort just for a vague future what if. All that being said, if you do have a plan for the extra stat page, or you just want one of the cosmetic rewards like the badges, cloak, bolo pet, or emotes, you should wait till you have the best gear. Now, before we end here, remember that bit about power leveling at the beginning? And if you look at the chart here, the small under sharp feet, whatever, seem pretty insane. Like, you know how people love metamets and hate desert mobs? Here's a reminder of how much better metamets are compared to desert mobs. Now look back at the hunters, and then metamets again. And now hunters again. Yeah. It's pretty extreme. And if you go on Flyffipedia, you'll see that a small hunter, only 3 levels higher than a Captain Kraken, is worth 5 times as much XP. And if you thought FWC was a good XP boost, this is like 2 FWC stacked on top of each other. That's cool and all, but that only matters for the next video, right? No. Oh no, not even close. In case you both skipped the intro and haven't seen the title of this video, this is a massive problem. Like, look at this level 155 column here. Hunters are 3 times more efficient than any other core mob at that level. Now, what's the lowest level of 155 can party together with? That's right, a 136. Now, what do you think will happen if a 136 got to enjoy the equivalent of a 4 times XP event? That's right, they just fly through the levels. So much so if you have the money for it, you may as well skip 135 gear and just buy boost to 150 and get 150 gear. You'd save a ton of time and possibly even money from all the amps you get so much more value out of. So what does buying power levels at these levels look like XP wise? Fortunately, I kept track of the XP I gained at 166 playing an Arcanist and had a geared 157 Elementer sitting around to test XP gains. Combined with Edwin's XP sheet updated for Kailoon, we can calculate how much XP a buyer can expect to get. Let's start with the level 166. My Arcanist at 166 gained 27% in an hour with Amp and Balloon and the following setup. 27% total from getting .0059 each, maths out to be that many stemma sets in an hour. Now I changed the setup of the sheet to get the XP a level 147 boosty would get with Amp, and finally multiply the XP by the number of mobs to get 68%. That, pulling up the NVXP chart here, is 4 times what you would get out of a full clear of Envy, or nearly 5 times if you can't clear turtles. This is main server XP by the way. If you're on FWC, that would be over 2 levels. But you know what? It's really not hard to tell that some of you probably don't believe me. And I get it. Seeing is believing after all. So I went ahead and leveled a 142 RM for an hour at Hunters. An Amp and 4066 small Hunters later, she earned 90%. I'll leave a link to an unlisted video of that in the description below if you want to see it. So hopefully you can see why I couldn't exclude this, but I understand it's still weird to include it. It is what it is.